dope boys with them now.
The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Down 8 gram, headed straight to the block. Pirates, this water walk till it's hot. Listen up, look, turn a look to a lot. Right hand on the cell phone, taking orders. Left hand 360, motor to a lot. Blue holler tips, got switches on the dot. State game, true stickers can't be stopped. Laughing at you haters while I'm thumbing through the paper. Says lonely at the bottom, won't you meet me at the top? The nigga ain't shit, yeah, get that a lot. Won't be deterred and I won't be stopped. Shaq Diesel number when I post up on the block. 24/7 cause the hustle don't stop. 31 flavor, take an order like a waiter. I be selling more gas than a local truck stop. 1,200 strong for a pound to the top. Got me shining, I'm a star. Ask about me, I am legend. They gon' tell you who we are. Fuck these niggas, fuck these bitches. Get money, all I know. No love for these bitches. Never saving these hoes. The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not.
When I'm thinking about the past, yeah, gon' get some knots, gang, we at the spot. If we ever was short, then it's back to the block, you probably get shot. Every day the sudden change, we getting money, that's one thing that's never gon' stop. Real dope boys do what it takes, playing high stakes, living to die. Do your time, keep it quiet, no matter who you are, don't get what you got. Stack it up, that's the bond to stay fresh. Oh, they think that you're not. Take a roll with a hoe, they gon' let you go. Somebody's gonna say you ain't hot. Just invest in yourself, don't worry about nobody else. There ain't no handout. If you say the same, put it on chain. Let them see you ain't tied down. Got a couple rings, did a lot of things. I ain't really gon' talk about it. Give me a trade, get you get some go. She gon' show up and show out. So don't ask me what a dope at, cause you already around.
The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. The game so cold, but I'm so hot. Same old shit, still on the block. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Same young nigga came up in the trap. I'm dope boy fresh with dope boy not. Never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Nigga talking reckless, shoot this bitch ass with the quickness. Now he bleeding, sorry, baby, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 limp biscuit. All my niggas wildin', they done labeled us a misfit. Wake up every morning, 2 or 3, 5 in the tidbit. Oh shit, didn't nobody come to see you old, it's some focus. Shoot 100 shots, no reloaded. Master of the game, you would think I'm into coded. Memphis niggas spit this pimpin', mackin' like I'm golden. Ho, with my money, you gon' turn me to the old me. Say hi, first class flight, I'm in the nosebleed. Hop it, cook it, whip it, ship it till you count the proceeds. OG, I've been moving pack niggas since 03. Low key, niggas hating, but they don't want no beef. State gang, true sippers, bitch, I bet we don't eat. Get jammed, get a lawyer, make it bunny, don't speak. Pour up, oh, I need some more. A nigga had a long week. Shout out to my plug, he showed me love, he out in Long Beach. I'm true geek, walked in by myself but left with 2 freaks. Ooh wee, nothing in they mouth and on they booty. Austin Power swag, yeah baby, this is groovy. You can call me money boy or you can call me nudie. Hood niggas, churches, chicken, let me get a 2-piece. Top down, 2-seater, let me feel the 2 breathe. Gotta hold it steady, chopper, kick it back like Bruce Lee. Lately I've been in the zone, I guess I'm in my 123. Don't call my phone for nothing less than a QP. Feeling like the Migos, cause my bitch is bad and bougie. All my haters love me, all these bitches just some groupies. Came a long way, I like to introduce the new me. Standing on business like I'm king or like I'm Drewski. Call me Ron Island, cause I like my love to choose it. When we link, it's a movie. She bustin' like a Uzi. I love the way she do me. I beat it up like Uzi. She dancing just like Suki. Call me Ron Island, cause I love my love to choose it. When we link, it's a movie. She bustin' like a Uzi. I love the way she do me. I beat it up like Uzi. She dancing just like Suki. I never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Niggas talking reckless, shoot his bitch ass with the quickness. Name pleading, sorry, begging, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 Limp Biscuit. Never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Nigga talking reckless, shoot his bitch ass with the quickness. Name pleading, sorry, begging, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 Limp Biscuit.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? We got a couple strange news stories. We get in and out. In this one, I might come back live because Tommy and them had a very, very spirited debate about Carmelo Anthony. Me and my partner P.I. been having a spirited debate about this as well. So I might come back live after I end this one. I think I got like 6 of them. All right. Ignore the wheezing child if y'all hear her.
Well, tonight only on 6 we are.
What was this one? She traveled to Miami for plastic surgery and died hours later at the recovery house.
Hearing from the family of a young mother who came to Miami from Las Vegas for a cosmetic procedure and died hours later inside a home advertising as a post-surgery recovery house.
NBC6 investigative reporter Amy Viteri spoke with the woman's mother and has why she is calling for change to keep others safe.
Monique's mother, Wakila, tells me she wants to share her daughter's story, but asked not to show her face on camera. To protect her privacy. It was supposed to be an adventure documented on social media.
We get us some coffee right now, though.
2 sisters traveling to South Florida from Nevada to get cosmetic surgery and recover together.
They were really excited.
According to their mother, 28-year-old Monique Miller and her 19-year-old sister Kiera both underwent procedures at Havana Plastic Surgery Clinic on West Flagler Street in early March. Afterward, she says, came here to a business operating out of this home on Southwest 4th Street called Kayla's Recovery House. According to their family, the sisters learned of this so-called recovery house through social media, and that's how they decided to stay here following their surgery. But Monique never made it home.
I have to remind myself every day that this is real. Monique is not coming back.
Monique's mother, Wakila, tells me she wants to share her daughter's story. Monique was a new mother herself to a 1-year-old girl.
My daughter's supposed to be here with her daughter, and unfortunately she's not.
Instead, according to this Miami police report, officers and fire rescue crews responded to the house the night of March 7th, which they say was operating as an illegal post-plastic surgery recovery home. Inside, they found Monique already dead and showing signs of rigor mortis, an indication she had likely been dead for hours. They describe her as heavily bandaged, face down on a bed.
From what Kiera is saying.
Now, I wonder, are they going to charge these people for running the house? Because we just saw that I think it was a clinic or whatever where that baby, the kid died in the hyperbaric chamber shit, but shouldn't they be held responsible for her death? Shouldn't somebody be charged in their death if they were running a unlicensed and or unregistered house? Jeez. An illegal post-plastic surgery recovery home. So that means they got liability, right? I mean, they charging drug dealers for selling tainted drugs and people overdosing. Can nothing be done about this?
Plastic surgery recovery home. Inside, they found Amonique already dead and showing signs of rigor mortis, an indication she had likely been dead for hours. They describe her as heavily bandaged, face down on a bed.
From what Kiara is saying, that a muscle relaxer was given and possibly multiple Percocets.
Her sister Kiara also told police staff gave Amonique medication, which is redacted in this report. She went to sleep, but never woke up.
First, the response was, she's fine, nothing is wrong. But once they realized that she had passed away, then it wasn't that they treated it like an emergency, but panic started to set in.
To be clear, we don't know yet what exactly caused Amonique's death.
That's correct.
At this time, the medical examiner has not linked any medication to Amonique's death and is still working to determine the cause and manner of death. We contacted an attorney for the woman who runs Kayla's recovery, Kayla Oliver, to ask about all of this. He told us we don't comment on pending investigations.
Someone like you have been reporting on this for 4 years. So where's the legislation? Where's the follow-up?
It's a unlicensed assisted living facility operating as a recovery house for post.
We've previously reported on the growing number of unlicensed recovery houses operating in South Florida, the law enforcement efforts to shut them down, and calls for tougher laws.
Amonique is not the first, and I hope that she really is the last that this happens to.
Wakila says the state has an obligation to enact policies that protect the women who travel here for cosmetic procedures.
This actually
women
happens
like
an
her
awful
daughter.
lot,
It
like
is
the
a big
woman
deal.
said.
A little girl
And
is
then it
not
always
without
be the
her
ones
mother
that
today.
just got to
We
having
reached
a
out
baby.
to Ivana, the clinic
Or
where
get their
Amonique
body
had her
done.
surgery, but have not yet heard back. Miami police say her death remains under investigation. Amy Viteri, NBC6 News.
So this is Dan Holleran. If you're not from New York, and even if you are, it's okay if you're unfamiliar. He was a former councilman in Queens.
NYC councilman busted at airport with 1,000+ child sex videos.
He left office in disgrace. He spent some time in prison for taking bribes, but it seems like the disgraced councilman can't stay out of trouble, especially when the feds allegedly caught him with videos of child sex abuse on his phone. I'm Elizabeth Milner with Law and Crime. Now, the former public official was changing planes at an airport in Miami while he was heading back to New York. Now, federal agents say they caught the 54-year-old with as many as 1,000 videos hidden on his iPhone, and he reportedly admitted to having them. 1,362. That's how many child sexual abuse videos federal agents say they found on Dan Holleran's cell phone. So, how were they found? Well, it's not like Dan handed over his phone and said, "Here, look." More happened. On Tuesday, Dan was traveling from Cuba and was supposed to head back to New York. Keyword, supposed to. So Dan got off his flight from Cuba. He was in Miami International Airport when Customs and Border Protection pulled him to the side. So yeah, that's already not looking too good. When they pulled him aside, it was for a device inspection. Now, according to reports, custom officers are allowed to search cell phones and other electronic devices at ports of entry with no probable cause or warrant. But what they allegedly found was disturbing. Investigators say they first found around 35 videos in a hidden folder on his iPhone, and those were reportedly of prepubescent girls being victimized. It was also discovered he allegedly purchased content from Telegram. You would think Dan Holleran would deny, right? Well, he reportedly admitted to knowingly having those disturbing videos on his phone. So I mentioned the number 1,362. Well, get ready for some more numbers. Officials say Dan told them about 2/3 to 3/4 of the 1,362 videos in his hidden album showed videos of child sexual abuse, which no matter how you slice it, that is just one video too many. He was booked into the Broward County Jail, but now he's in federal detention in Miami. Again, not Dan's first time behind bars. He was convicted in 2014 of election rigging, well, specifically bribery and conspiracy charges. He took money to fix the Republican mayoral primary in New York City. Oh, and he was convicted of taking payoffs from developers who wanted him to funnel city money to them. But those developers were actually the FBI. So yeah, you can see why he's known as the disgraced councilman. He was sentenced in 2015 to a decade in federal prison, but he only served 5 years of his sentence in prison. He was released halfway through his sentence because of the COVID pandemic. As station WPLG in Florida points, in a crazy twist of irony, he now has the same federal inmate register number he had after his bribery conviction. When it comes to this case, though, no plea just yet. He's set to be arraigned at a later date. So for now, he's still in federal detention in Miami. I'm joined now by retired NYPD Detective David Sarney. David, thank you so much for joining me. Obviously, you're from New York. What's your reaction to Dan Holleran's arrest in Florida?
It's not unexpected for a person who's already been locked up in time federally. What is concerning is the fact that it's now child porn. So that's always a thing that you look at is this city, and we see pedophiles in the past we've arrested. It doesn't just start immediately with the arrest. There's been things before that. So there's going to be more of a deep dive into his online profile and his access. And this is just the start of the investigation that's going to continue on with this arrest.
Yeah, and even the start, it kind of paints a really disturbing picture. More than 1,300 child sexual abuse videos were found on his phone. And if that's not disturbing enough, 35 of those videos were of prepubescent girls, What does that tell you? And what does that also tell you about how long he may have allegedly been doing this?
Well, that's the issue. The benefit was when CPB looked at its phone, because they can do that, which is a benefit because they're authorized to do that, especially when it comes to international travel. He was coming back in from Cuba to Miami, and they did a look on his phone. And CBP is authorized to do that. As they look on the phone, they see all these things on his phone. They look and seeing a date of 2024 is when he was downloading these photos. But I'll guarantee you whatever access or any photos he has or any videos will be at his residence, and there's going to be search warrants conducted there. And again, that deep dive into his online history and his online profile and access that he's had. This is going to be probably a longer-term investigation because you want to look to see who he's been in contact with, because pedophiles tend to group up. They tend to share and send these photos. So internationally, this is a benefit for law enforcement because now you're going to look at it on the national level. Maybe we can actually start, gathering a net and grabbing these people who are getting these videos. And not only that, maybe producing these photos, because this is just a heinous crime that it doesn't end until we eliminate the threats of these individuals, these pedophiles.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like this is a type of case where this is just like a one-off instance. It doesn't seem like he just did this alone. Obviously, to your point, he maybe had other people kind of playing parts into this. Now, how do we were talking about authorities finding the phone. How do you think authorities knew to look at his phone? Now, they are able to search through it without a probable cause or without a warrant or anything like that. He was traveling from Cuba, heading to Miami, where he had that stop before heading back here to New York. Do you think it was just the right chance moment, or do you think all along federal authorities knew that they had to keep an eye on him?
Well, that's something that's unusual, but given the fact he's a convicted felon, that might have added something to it. But, this is something that Customs Borders Protection can do when people going international flights coming back into the U.S. And given the fact it is Cuba, we've had issues with Cuba travel. So this might have been an added nuance to the opening of his phone, checking on his phone. And once they saw there's issues with the phone, it moved on from the initial investigator, the initial officer, and then it cascaded and moved downward. And then they started seeing this dark web of pedophilia that he's been warehousing on his phone.
In your opinion, how do we go from corruption and bribery to this?
Well, this is the thing about criminality. It's extensive. There are people who are bad, and he was a convicted felon. Federal. This is a federal crime that he's involved in, and pedophilia is something that, when it's put out in the open, it's not just a one-time thing. The benefit is he's been caught. Now, what you do is now you work on someone who's done this, and the heinous crime this is. You are entitled to speak up in the court of law, but he did admit knowingly possessing the items there. There's a lot of damning evidence to look to convict him federally. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. So, when you see these type of cases, especially when it comes to child abuse, child porn videos, and pedophilia, this is where the ensnarement of all of the resources that the federal and local and state agencies do is to hone in on these people, because it's not just one person. He got these videos and these photos from other people that share it. So it's going to continue onward. And I don't doubt that the agencies involved will get as many people as they can who are involved in this, not just this person. I don't want to name this person who's been arrested.
Yeah, and it does feel like it's the tip of the iceberg as well, too. In terms of charging him, it was a lot of videos, right? But only 2 federal child pornography charges. Why do you think it wasn't more?
Well, what you can do is sometimes the way the federal courts, the way prosecutors are, they have at least 2. If they want to extend them further, they can. So they're going to work on the 2 and see where they can get. They may want to look for some cooperation in a sense. You're not going to see him lose and take away prison time, but there could be extensive time if he doesn't cooperate. They can then add additional charges later on. I've seen that happen in state cases where we have a person arrested for some, but if they don't cop to the ones we have, they'll extend those cases to further all the cases they want. So he almost has 1,400 video. So you're looking at 2 federal charges, and if they need be, they'll just extend the charges further.
And we were talking about this a little bit offline, that, the CBP officer also found texts indicating that Dan Holleran purchased this type of content from Telegram. And we see Telegram come up a lot in different cases that we cover, mainly suspects using it to try to get away with this type of activity. But what are your thoughts overall on the use of the app specifically to engage in this type of nefarious criminal behavior? But also, what are your thoughts on just him using and messaging someone to buy this type of content on the app?
Yeah, you see a lot of people using these scripted end-to-end apps such as Signal, WhatsApp, and Telegram being one of them. It seems to be Telegram is that darker side of it, where if you might be getting things on social media to someone wants to be your friend. Here's my Telegram number. So there's other things going on with Telegram. I mean, there's a benefit to it to protect and the privacy of individuals, but there are people using it for nefarious purposes, such as selling child porn. So this is one of the things that tech is good. When tech is good, it's good. But people use technology sometimes for the worst of the worst, and this being one of them, distributing child porn.
And do you think that it's possible, had investigators not caught up to him when he was flying in from Cuba, that maybe that's where this was heading, for him to distribute it to more people?
Yeah, the benefit of this is what CBP did, and they did their job as part of anything that they do when people come back into the States. But if the CBP officer did not look into his phone, we would know how far it would have gone. This is where this wasn't he's being investigated for it. He was found to have it at that moment. So that's why it's not going to be just what's on his phone. He's probably going to have items on his other devices, his laptop, desktop, whatever computer source he has. So this is just something that is a happenstance because, this is what federal agencies do when you're coming into another country. You're susceptible to being checked, in a sense, searched, and they were allowed to search the phone. It's very rare they do it, but in this case, given the fact that they're coming from a country that we've had issues with as far as travel is concerned, that might have been the reason why they did look at the phone.
Yeah, and you can't even imagine what would have happened had they not looked at the phone. He's back here in New York, and just where this all could have gone from here. When you've investigated these types of cases during your time with the NYPD, when you talk to suspects who are accused of the exact same thing, do they think in their mind that somehow this is better, that they possess these types of images, these types of videos, as opposed to actually acting on these types of crimes? Do they feel like there's a difference? Because to me, there's not. But, to the suspects themselves, did they feel like, I didn't act on this? I'm not really a criminal. What did they say to you when you investigated these types of cases?
Well, these type of cases, when we've dealt with people who are into children, they don't see anything truly wrong with it. There's been societies which promote it. There's been NAMBLA was one of them and has been one of them where they don't see harm in it. But the reality is it's illegal, it's immoral, and you can't push away the fact that of what you're doing is something in fact criminal. And I don't see anyone not saying this is an evil act. And because you're just a visionary of it, I'm just watching it, doesn't mean necessarily that you're not privy to it. Because if you're purchasing it, if you're involved in it, you are putting yourself and you're promoting it. Because that's why you saw there were different types of programs. So they could have gotten the VIP plan, they gotten this type of plan. So this is something that they're looking to do, and you can't excuse it. They may excuse it because of prior issues that they've had in the past with pornography, but child porn is child porn. And this is something that we have to, you have to nip in the bud. And the only way to do it is these individuals need to be incarcerated, and the people who promote this and distribute this porn need to be also incarcerated. I have not seen, unfortunately, anyone truly reformed from this type of from pedophilia. They only sometimes avoid it because they're going to get caught, not because because they can't. There's an innate urge in these individuals to continue this problem and this disease, this evil. And it usually starts as a child, or you've been exposed to it, and it continues on. So this is something that, I don't see any end to it unless we get them off the streets and end this and really put these people out of business.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. David Sarney, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. What do you think will happen next in the case?
Well, right now he's being held. He's got his next court date, situation, and the feds are going to build up their case. They're going to go. I said they're going to be going to search warrants at his house and any documentation, any place he's been, his place of business. He's a dive instructor, so I guarantee you, does he have things in his office there? What does he have? They're going to build their case, and then they're going to maybe work on some sort of cooperation where you're not denying him prison time, but somewhere along the line trying to get more information from them. And that's what he's probably going to utilize, is I have more info. I'll get that with whole Queen for a day in a sense. But, the reality is he's still possessing and knowingly possessing almost 1,400 videos and photos and things of the child porn.
And admitted to that as well, too, according to federal investigators. David Sarney, again, thank you so much for your time and your insight into this case. We'll see how this all continues to develop. Love to have you back on to talk more about
Y'all in student sex arrest body cam. It be these white teachers is losing their damn minds. Every time we look up, it's a white teacher. It's a white teacher. I don't know what's up with these folks.
I don't understand what's going on here. I get it, yeah. You can go grab your things.
A special ed teacher taken by surprise when police pick her up to question her for having sex with a student. Christina Formella. How things ended like this.
Oh my God.
Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. I want to tell you really quickly, just a reminder, we are now available on Spotify. You can watch and listen to us there.
Hopefully he wasn't no special ed student.
Of having sex with a boy she was tutoring and coaching in her classroom. I told you about Formella's arrest a couple of weeks ago, and now we're actually seeing video of it. Formella was a soccer coach and a special ed teacher at South Downers Grove High in Downers Grove, Illinois, outside of Chicago. Downers Grove police pulled her over back on March 16th to have a little chat. They followed her to her driveway.
Hey, how you doing? Hi. Officer Guzman with Downers Grove. Do you have your license on you?
Yes. Tonight?
Yeah, I'm gonna explain. I'm sure you're confused. I'll explain it to you. You're Christina?
Yes.
Okay, Christina, do me a favor. Can you step out of the car for me? I know you're confused. I'll explain everything to you. You don't have anything on you? You can just grab whatever you need.
Whatever I need.
Yeah, whatever you need. Like your phone, your purse, go and grab it.
Is she going somewhere? Or?
Yeah, we're gonna explain everything to you guys.
The mother of the boy that Formella is accused of having sex with went to police after the state attorney said she found text messages between her son and Formella on his phone. More on those texts a little later. It's not a shock at all that the mother reported it to police, but Christina Formella, she appears shocked when police approach her. Now back to that video.
I don't understand what's going on here.
I get it, yeah. You can go grab your things.
Can he come with me?
Yes, yes. You stay there right now, sir. Just stay there, but yes, you can. Now, come on back here.
Should I shut the car off?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Doors off. Okay. Start back over here. So, we do have an investigation going on. We have to talk to you about it, okay? So we're going to explain everything to you there. It's not my investigation. I don't know the full details. We do have to bring you there, though, okay? So I do have to put you in handcuffs and bring you to the police department. Just a Downers Grove.
Handcuffs?
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
I'm like willing to go with you.
I get it, yeah. Unfortunately, we have to do it that way. So do me a favor, we just take this off.
Can I ask you what?
Of course, yeah. It's not, like I said, it's not my investigation. Obviously, we're here for a reason. So go ahead and turn around for me. So right now, you're just being detained, and there is a detective that needs to talk to you at the police department.
Now, I'm pretty sure this is the last thing that was on her mind, that dang, they coming to me because I've been fucking one of my students. I'm pretty sure she was like, hold up. That didn't even cross her mind when they pulled her over and told her to step out and shit. She thought it was a traffic offense, a bullshit warrant, or something. I'm willing to put money on it. Gabe said, this one makes him sad. All of them just make me sad.
So we'll let your husband know. No, he can just come to the police department as well if he wants to wait for you there.
I'm like.
I get it. You have a lot of questions.
So scared.
Yeah, everything's okay. We just need to talk to you at the police department. That's all. Nothing else on your pocket right now. Anything else?
My phone.
Just your phone.
Here.
Okay. Okay. All right. We're sitting back in this car. On the other side. Once you get to the police department, you'll talk to the detective and he'll explain everything to you.
But you can't even give me like an idea as to what this is about?
It's an investigation that's going on right now. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more.
Is he coming with me?
We'll let him know right now.
I want want to tell you about FinanceBuzz.com, which is sponsoring this episode of Crime Fix. FinanceBuzz is your expert source for smarter financial decisions, whether it's cutting costs on car insurance, finding the best credit cards, or growing your investments. If you are paying hundreds a month or more for your coverage, then you will want to hear about this. Car insurance rates have nearly doubled in the last few years. Below, or scan that QR in email and the on the phone. Just click that link below. The he that Christina Formella is referring to is the person in the passenger seat, and he's her husband. They were married late last summer. Even on the way down to the station, Christina has no idea of what is going on.
We're just going down to Grove, so 10 minutes away.
No, I know, but I really would prefer that my husband's with me.
Of course.
Trouble? Like I'm so lost right now. I'm
sure you are. Like I said, I can't answer any questions right now. Just tell you that right now you're being detained for an investigation and we're bringing you in a police car. And once you get there, they're going to fill you in and everything.
Now, police drive Christina Formella to the police station, and detectives will question her there. Remember, I told you this all started when a teenage boy's mom saw text messages between her son and Formella on his phone. The state attorney said she was setting up his new iPhone when she found these texts between him and an unknown number. The woman's son wrote in one text message, "I love you so, so much, Mama." The unknown number texted back, "I love you so much, baby. Even though this morning was short, it was perfect." The teen messaged back, "I know, baby, it was perfect, so perfect." The unknown number then texted, "I love having sex with you." The teen responded, "I know, baby, I love it so much. It feels so good. It's so passionate. It's so intimate. It's so perfect." Imagine what the mother was thinking when she reads text messages of her underage son and his teacher professing love for one another and explicitly discussing sex that they had in a campus classroom. So the mother, of course, went straight to Downers Grove police. A petition for Christina Formella's detention stated, according to the teen, he and defendant had developed feelings for each other. The teen said that one morning in December of 2023, before school, he had met up with defendant in her classroom. The teen said that defendant had closed her door, which automatically locked, that they had started kissing, that he had grabbed her butt, and she had grabbed his private parts over the clothes, that she had removed his pants and underwear, that they had removed her leggings, and that they had engaged in sexual intercourse while standing up. Downers Grove police picked up Formella and took her to the police department for questioning, of course. Prosecutors say Christina Formella denied having sex with the teenage boy when detectives interviewed her. And she claimed everyone comes after her because she's good looking, and she simply cared too much about this teenage boy. When detectives confronted Formella about notes she had written in her phone, prosecutors said she claimed they were an outlet for her anxiety, which was brought on by the teenage boy. So let's take a look at the notes the state attorney said the detectives found in Christina Formella's phone. An officer said that Formella wrote, "I'm not upset. I'm not mad. I'm not any of that. I've just lost interest. I went back and screenshotted every single time that I said we should break up until after the wedding and after you graduated. And every single effing time you came back and convinced me it would be fine. I initiated every single breakup, only for you to end things saying you couldn't get over it. You ruined us. I warned you we should have never started dating a long, long effing time ago. And you gaslit me and convinced me it was fine every single time. B, that's who you are. We will never, ever be together again. I'm not a second choice. I'm the best thing you'll ever have until it was convenient for you. It broke me last time. This time it changed me. I'm not sad. I'm effing mad that I let a 16-year-old F-word with me like that. And I made a promise to myself that I never will let any guy F-word with me like that again." Now, police said there was a section in Formella's notes entitled Manifestations, and that it read, The teen is going to reach out to me soon and try to fix things between us. In the meantime, I'm going to live my best life knowing he's not the person I thought he was and that he is beneath me. Police said they found another note in Formella's phone from November 2024 that read, "The teen and I will connect again soon in a positive way. We will both get the closure we need in order to move on in a healthy way. We will be able to be a part of each other's lives forever. We will be in each other's lives forever.
You said it, Melissa. This hoe is crazy. Anxiety. A teen, a kid he manipulated you into coming back. He's a narcissist. It's not funny, but I'm saying she said it's a kid manipulated her grown ass. All right. This nigga must have been Johnny Depp.
We will be able to love each other while also living our own lives." Now, while questioning Formella, the state attorney said Formella denied having sex with the teen, but in the same breath admitted her relationship with him was wrong, but she couldn't break it off because she cared too much about him. Detectives said Christina Formella had referred to the boy as her stalker and that her husband knew about this, but when they asked her husband about him, he only knew about the boy as a soccer player. Soon the questioning would end.
I'm just going to put your seatbelt on. How much are you able to sit down there? Alright. Sure you don't want a tissue or something?
I'm feeling I'm gonna throw up.
A bag?
Yes, please.
Alright. Shauna, can you grab a bag out of there? Hey, can you get like a bag just in case she gets nauseous? Yeah.
Christina Formella fears she'll throw up. She's been interviewed by police, and according to the records that I just read to you, it didn't go well. As she sits in the back of the transport vehicle, the gravity of the situation hits her.
Here, if you stay with her, I'll go grab it.
Oh my God. What the
Can I put it on the floor here, alright?
Okay.
A few paper towels on the floor here if needed, alright?
Okay, thank you.
Christina Formella gets comfortable for the ride to the jail, and it seems to take quite a while. Eventually, she calms down and stops crying. She sits in silence, appearing to think about what's happened, contemplating what's coming next. And then a song comes on the radio. It just seems a little bit ironic that a song about a heartbreaker comes on the radio after everything Formella is alleged to have written in her note, and the jail takes this mugshot. She faces 1 count of aggravated sexual abuse, 1 count of criminal sexual assault, and 1 count of aggravated criminal sexual abuse. Let's take a look at the video of police approaching her just one more time.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Officer Guzman with Downers Grove. Do you have your license on you?
Yes. Tonight?
Yeah, I'm gonna explain. I'm sure you're confused. I'll explain everything to you.
Right through the double doors.
You're Christina?
Yes.
Okay, Christina, do me a favor. Can you step out of the car for me? I know you're confused. I'll explain everything to you. You don't have anything on you? You can just grab whatever you need.
Whatever I need.
Yeah, whatever you need. Your phone, your purse, your phone, grab it.
Is she going somewhere? Or?
Yeah, we're gonna explain everything to you guys.
We're just going to Downers Grove, so 10 minutes away.
No, I know, but I really would prefer that my husband's with me.
Of course.
So y'all really finna just show us her singing nothing. Quiet and I was like, this.
Am I in trouble? Like I'm so lost right now.
Like I said, I can't
babe, you really gonna hate the next one. Yeah, buddy, they just left. I don't know why they felt like doing it this necessary twice. I get it the first time. Why we need to see this again, baby? Like, get to the commentary, baby. They're just gonna do a whole 5 years. Skipping through this shit. It'd be crazy if this had a video. Just look at this man. Oh, man. Hell no.
A Georgia mother is behind.
Georgia woman dumped newborn baby in a trash bag. So much for that motherly instinct.
Behind bars, accused of throwing her newborn baby away to die inside a trash bag. And now, this 22-year-old mom is facing attempted murder charges. I'm going to be speaking with Georgia criminal defense attorney Meg Strickler to get to the bottom of this devastating case, potential defenses, and explore what other options this mother may have had, including Georgia's safe haven law. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. A 22-year-old Georgia woman is facing serious charges, including basically an attempted murder charge, after authorities say she abandoned her newborn baby boy in a trash bag on her back porch before seeking medical treatment for herself. Oh, by the way, without ever telling her boyfriend or doctors she had just given birth. You wish this could be something that I'm just, making up, but no, I'm not. These are the allegations. And wait till you hear how authorities say the baby was discovered, and tell me that won't just break your heart. This disturbing chain of events began in the early hours of March 31st, when Elena Rapun allegedly gave birth at her home on Peyton Street in Georgia's Bibb County. And instead of seeking help for the child, deputies say she wrapped the baby boy in towels, placed him inside of a trash bag, and left him on the porch. Hours later, when she began suffering from excessive bleeding, her boyfriend rushed her to the hospital, unaware that the couple's child was still outside fighting for his life. So here's what we know, according to a media release from the Bibb County Sheriff's Office. Now, Rapun's boyfriend apparently noticed her medical condition and called 911. Took her to Piedmont-Macon Hospital's emergency room. Now, before leaving, Rapun had placed a trash bag on the back porch, something that didn't initially raise suspicion because it's not really an odd thing to do, right? But police say there was a very alive baby inside that trash bag, something Rapun's boyfriend didn't realize when the two of them initially left their home. But allegedly, he realized it when he returned. According to the sheriff's office, after ensuring Rapun was receiving care at the hospital, the boyfriend, whose name has not been released, returned home to gather some belongings, and that is when he made this heartbreaking discovery. The sheriff's office writes, a noise caught his attention coming from the bag. This is the trash bag that Rapun had thrown out earlier. Upon checking the bag, the infant was found wrapped in towels. The infant was alive, breathing, struggling inside this bag. The baby was immediately transported to the hospital following this, as per the sheriff's office, though it's unclear if the boyfriend took the baby himself or called police after making the discovery. But medical staff confirmed the baby boy was in critical but stable condition. The Bibb County Sheriff's Office reports that Rapun kept this pregnancy a complete secret. According to the media release, it was reported that Rapun didn't let her boyfriend know that she was pregnant or that she had the child when he came home. It was also reported that Rapun didn't notify medical staff that she had the child upon arriving for medical treatment. So not only did she allegedly leave her boyfriend in the dark, but she also never even mentioned it at the hospital, the very place where she was being treated after, giving birth. And one important thing to mention is the timeline here. That investigators say Rapun had the baby at around 4:30 in the morning, but she didn't end up going to the hospital until the afternoon, when her boyfriend called 911 after the excessive bleeding. So that means that both she and this baby went without medical attention or treatment for hours. And after being treated and released from the hospital, Rapun was taken into custody by Bibb County Crimes Against Children investigators on April 1st. She was booked into the Bibb County Detention Center.
That woman has a high threshold for pain. You sit around bleeding out like an animal for hours and still didn't die. How'd she get rid of the umbilical cord?
On charges of criminal attempt to commit felony murder, reckless abandonment of a child, and first-degree cruelty to children. She appeared in court on April 2nd for a bond hearing where she faced a judge for the first time.
All right, Ms. Rapun, case number B25-27894. Ma'am, you're being charged with criminal attempt to commit murder, cruelty to children in the first degree, and reckless abandonment. Do you understand the 3 charges being presented against you?
Yes, sir.
All right, how old are you, Ms. Rapun?
22.
You said 22?
22, yes, sir.
22. Last grade of school you completed.
High school graduate, senior year.
Good deal, good deal. You understand what's going on in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
Do you feel you need a commitment hearing?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. I'm gonna set you up for a commitment hearing. The bond's gonna be denied at this time. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask Attorney Chastain?
So the bond was denied, meaning she's going to remain in jail as this case proceeds. And as you heard there, court also scheduled a commitment hearing or a preliminary hearing. So we actually checked out Rapun's profile on TruthFinder, just had to put her name and location. She popped up within seconds. And according to the powerful background checker, she doesn't have a criminal history, but excellent month of confidential background about this. Some easy case to talk about. Your criminal defense attorney, Meg Strickler. Meg, thanks so much for coming. I know this is not an easy case to talk about. Do you see these cases a lot, unfortunately?
Yeah, unfortunately. I am not a fan of cruelty to children cases, period. Children are the most vulnerable pieces of population that I hate them. I actually hate these kinds of cases. But with that said, I'm going to give you my criminal defense lawyer mindset on this case. She's 22. And I spent a lot of time in Macon. I love practicing in that district, the Middle District of Georgia. I don't do state cases there, but I do a lot of federal cases there. So I'm in Macon all the time. So I looked up the address, and she's only a mile or two from the hospital. So we can't argue it's a rural issue, like she's too rural. But I will tell you from just personal experience, that area is really poor. Macon has a really poor population, and it looks to me, is from a lower income area, which means she has lack of resources, lack of education, and lack of knowledge, perhaps, of the safe haven laws that we all have across across the nation. We have it everywhere. Now, I feel compassionate here. We don't know all the storyline here. Was she a victim of abuse? That's the first thing I came up with, is that she's a victim. And so she is in denial. She's in shock. She's in everything. And she doesn't want to talk about this because this baby could have been, again, I'm jumping here, but that's the first thing that came to my head, was that she's sexually abused and this may not be the boyfriend's baby. I mean, who knows? But I was already jumping to other thought processes, which makes her less criminal.
So a lot of things there, right? I've seen cases before where you have young mothers and they will bury the baby, they will throw the baby out thinking the baby was dead. Now, I wonder if that's something that will be explored here. Now, obviously, the baby wasn't. You hear the boyfriend heard noises from the baby. I imagine if we just, and I'll get into Georgia's safe haven law in a minute, but that avenue, right? Because you try to understand what could have led somebody to do this. What would have led somebody, hey, just drop the baby off somewhere else, But the idea of putting the baby in the trash bag, how do you justify that? So if she thought the baby was dead, would that be a legal defense?
It is. And again, it goes back to an inability to have medical resources. Will we learn that she had any kind of medical treatment with an OBGYN prior to now? Will we learn more information about this pregnancy, number one? Because if she had had a doctor and services, if she felt something, because A, she knew was pregnant, and B, knew the baby was coming, she would have called the doctor and said, I'm having pains. Okay. And then that would have led the doctor to kind of say, hey, I think something's happening, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I think that's not what occurred here. She may not have known she was pregnant, which, I always have difficulty believing that one, but it does occur. And then more importantly, was the baby not alive in her mind? Now, I want to point out one more thing. When you give birth, even to if the fetus is only 20 weeks old, 26 weeks old, it's still not a fun process. I'm not trying to be funny when I say that. I'm saying it's an awful experience, period. So she's undergoing a trauma delivering that baby on her own, number one. And number two, you have the hormones happening. You have a complete hormone crash when the baby comes out. And there's a lot of that going on. So you have ignorance, you have hormones, and then you have no medical help, no support system. She very well could have thought that baby was not alive. Hence, why it was in a trash bag.
But I'll counter that by saying, it's not like she gave birth and left the baby right on the floor and ran out. I mean, to put it in a trash bag, to hide it, that's what the allegation would be. And I guess the question is, if you don't know about Georgia's safe haven law, is ignorance of the law a defense? And by the way, right, Georgia's safe haven law allows mothers, right, to surrender their newborn safely. They have 30 days from birth to do it. If you don't know about that, is that a defense? I mean, is that ignorance of the law a defense?
Well, that's why I went to the abuse part. And I just immediately jumped to that conclusion that there's some sort of dysfunction happening in this family. Because if you're already kind of freaked out about going to authorities for some other reason, by all means, let me go to the police station and hand the baby over. Again, I'm not defending her actions per se. I'm just coming up with some thought processes that may have occurred in her mind. So ignorance of the law is never a good excuse here. But what I think will be very useful here is all the mitigating aspects. We don't know what they are yet. Could there have been drugs? Could there have been drug abuse? Could she be an addict? We don't know. I mean, we don't know what the family support system is. Do we know if she's had any other children? Has DFACS, the Department of Family and Children's Services, been involved in her world prior to this week? These are all things we'll learn, and this will help develop mitigating information that would hopefully, get her out on bond right now. I find it kind of reprehensible they didn't give her bonds. That's my own personal opinion.
Do they usually would give bond in a case like this?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going to give you my opinion, all right? And so in my opinion, and I'm a good lawyer, so when I'm in there arguing, I would argue all of these things to give her bond, okay? Because the criminal attempt is I think you said murder. Well, that gets a little dicey. And if it's murder, it's one of those, what we call 7 deadly sins. She can't get bond, okay? But I didn't look up the statute as to what she's specifically charged with.
Yes,
so maybe that statute.
So yeah, the way that we understand it and the way that it's being reported, Georgia's criminal attempt of felony murder. So
That's first degree.
So that's first degree. And is that basically attempted murder? And what do you have to prove to establish that?
Well, I'm guessing, and again, I'm only guessing here, is that the police are not the prosecutors. So I kind of think they were very good with their immediate thought process on how this case will ultimately be indicted. Okay. First degree cruelty to children is the felony that makes it the felony murder because you were committing the cruelty to children, and that's what had the baby die. So that is how you get to felony murder. So it could very much elevate. We don't know yet. So I don't know, but I have a feeling that's why the judge was like, look, I'm not touching this. Let y'all figure it out. Because what happens next is a lawyer like me files a motion to set bond, gets the other side, the prosecution, to do a consent bond so that we don't have to have a hearing. We waive the preliminary hearing. We don't bother with that because, at least in Georgia, and years ago we used to love prelims, but we don't do them as much. And so we argue, hey, we'll waive that. We'll just let the system move forward. And that's when we get into the mitigating. We go ahead and get her some medical treatment. We go ahead and get her some mental health treatment. We go ahead and find out what's happening here, get a more drawing of the picture here, and work on the case. I think she'll get on bond. Really.
You make a very strong argument for how she might be able to get out of bond. I don't know about the idea of her being found, not guilty in the sense. Put aside the murder.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, that's fine. No, you've raised interesting defenses, and it makes me think. And I say, put the murder charge to the side, or this criminal attempt to commit felony murder. The reckless abandonment and the cruelty to child. And this is the way cruelty to child is. A parent, guardian, or other person supervising the welfare or having immediate charge or custody of a child under the age of 18 commits the offense of cruelty to children in the first degree when such person willfully deprives the child of necessary sustenance to the extent that the child's health or well-being is jeopardized. I mean, that's a charge that carries 5 to 20 years in prison, my understanding is. That feels like a straightforward case for prosecutors, unless I'm looking at it the wrong way.
It's a case where you're feeling badly for the 22-year-old because she's a child, and then you're feeling more horrible about this poor baby who wasn't given a chance. I mean, the baby's still alive at this minute, but is that going to remain the case? We don't know yet. And so there's so many more moving parts as why these kinds of cases are so much more difficult because it's so emotionally driven. But speaking as a lawyer, you better bet that if we went to trial, the prosecution's got a completely perfect case. I mean, it fits the elements perfectly. And first degree child cruelty, I've had those cases more than, I can't count. I've had a good many of them through the years. There's multiple degrees of them as well. And to get it down to a misdemeanor is laughable. I don't fathom that happening. I do think she's got a seriously rough road ahead of her. But that's why I keep arguing the mitigating is when we've got an insurmountable hill, we've got to find a way to kind of say, well, what do we do? I mean, we got to find some way to mount this hill. And that's why I keep bringing up the mitigating. It's the only thing we have.
So, and you bring up a very unfortunate potential consequences. This baby, we hope this baby recovers 100%, but there is a chance of the worst and the baby could die. And if that's the case, you think she would be charged with murder?
I do. The prosecution has to do their job. And we do need to say, look, let's use these kinds of cases. If you Google these kinds of cases, not just in Georgia and other states, this keeps happening. This keeps happening. And that's the part that really just bothers me. If you read articles about the safe haven laws, there are organizations that work to educate rural places, poor places, in high schools and health classes, PE classes, fill in the blank, and yet it still occurs. So how do we fix this? This I don't know, but I think something's got to give. I mean, these poor babies.
When you hear about
a lot of trouble with this.
The Georgia Department of Human Services said the law has been used nearly 80 times since it first went into effect back in 2002. Now, some would say that's a large number. Some would say that's actually a small number, right? Yeah.
Teeny number. And that's why I'm saying there's got to be a disconnect here where dysfunction prevents people from going into law enforcement or police stations or fire stations. Or is the law written in such a way that you got to leave it with staff? Can you leave it on the front door? Are people just so scared to trust the government? Who knows? But we've got to figure out a way to make it easier. And I love the fact the law exists. I mean, it's basically saying you get criminal immunity. We don't care what the story is, give us the baby and we'll move on. So it's a great law. But 80 times in 20 some years, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's tiny. I can tell you that from experience. Tiny.
Let me ask you this. I think a large portion of this case, and you mentioned it before, comes down to whether or not she knew she was pregnant. Yeah. If she didn't tell anybody, right, and we assume that she didn't tell the boyfriend, put that to the side about how the boyfriend wouldn't know. What would be evidence to suggest she knew she was pregnant? If she didn't, text anybody about it, if she didn't, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, what are the ways that you'd be able to prove it?
Oh, easily. I mean, just like all my cases, technology. You know what I mean? Technology is the law enforcement's wonderful tool. If they somehow went and got her phone, this is 100,000 pages in the Celebrite report. This thing tells people so much data. So if she texted, posted anything, emailed about this, had gone to the doctor in the past 9 months, anything that she was told she was
Google search.
Yes, we're in trouble. We're in her house. Did she buy any baby anything? I mean, I having been pregnant 4 times, I can't imagine you not knowing, but I know it happens. So I'm not trying to say that people wouldn't know because you hear stories about it. But it's if she knew, I think it'll be provable rather easily through technology, 100%. Because they not only can track her car, in other words, where did the car go? They can track the local services. They can go to Planned Parenthood type places and find out if she went there. They can go to Piedmont. Did she ever visit that one again? They can go to the other hospitals there in Macon.
It's interesting because, if she gives birth, wraps the baby in towels, puts the baby in the trash bag, you make a good point about what is someone feeling in that moment, the hormones. Because another person would look at it and say, if you really were shocked you gave birth, you'd immediately call 911. You would immediately say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just gave birth. So the prosecution would argue, nope, she knew what was happening and she immediately had a plan.
The thing that I can't wrap my brain around, and I'm not trying to get too detailed, but it's not a pretty process.
No.
And that part, I have a lot of trouble wrapping my brain around of you being in your home and then wrapping it up into a trash bag. And then your boyfriend says, how you doing, girlfriend? Oh, I'm really hurting. I'm bleeding, profusely. That I just can't wrap my head around. I can't wrap my head around how those steps occurred. I can't, because, again, not to get detailed, there's just an enormous amount of blood. And there's also, you have to deliver the placenta after. So if she didn't do that properly, that could have been something that caused some problems where she definitely had to go in to get help. I mean, who knows? But I always, when I hear these stories, how did you do it at home? Alone, 4 in the morning. Where was the boyfriend then?
Yeah. That time, what do you make of that timeline? 4 in the 30 in the
I don't
morning?
get it.
That's a long time.
And again, there goes for more data. Even though she may be from a more lower income area, for the most part, all of us have Ring cameras and such. And I can tell you from experience doing drug cases down there in Macon, they have 1 million pole cams. They have 1 million just cams everywhere so that they could pretty much figure out her movements in and around that house. And that might help build a timeline as to her knowledge when the baby actually may have been born. These very important parts that would then put into perspective the boyfriend's statements. Are they true or are they not true?
That's what I was going to ask you. So to be clear right now, there's nothing to suggest that the boyfriend's statements are not true, that he's a party to this in any way. But you do have to ask the question, how did he not know she was pregnant?
Yeah. I mean, again, going back to your boyfriend, I mean, I'm assuming they were living together. And that night, were they not sleeping together? But more importantly, in the past, were they not sleeping together? How did you not notice a change, gaining weight? Again, when you're young like that, super, super young, you saw her on the jail hearing. She looked super, super young. And you can not necessarily show full 9 months. When you're this young, she's it is easy. But the boyfriend is there every minute. I may not notice, you may not notice, but if you're living with her or your significant other, you're being intimate with her. I mean, really? I don't believe it.
What can we expect from an upcoming commitment hearing?
Good question. Now, that's a lawyer choice. We've talked about with the bond. Sometimes we're offered, hey, if you waive that preliminary hearing, we'll give you bond. So I'm always like, sure, could care less. I already know that there's going to be probable cause to bind this case over to get it indicted. That's a no-brainer. Now, some cases, that's different. Let's be clear. This case, waive that and get it over with. Now, if they end up having the preliminary hearing, it's a great thing. I teach evidence. It's a great thing to have, wait a minute, everybody's writing down everything they say. It's called prior testimony at that point. They have been at a hearing and they testify, meaning the law enforcement, the boyfriend, the medical people, and everything they say has now been written in stone. And none of us can say the same thing twice. So it's very good cross-examined fodder for the future.
Does the defense have an opportunity to present a counter narrative, to question the witnesses, to in any which way? What's the defense's role during the commitment hearing?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what I do. Okay, what I like to do.
Well, you're the standard now. You're our standard. You're our Georgia standard. Whatever you do, we're jumping on. We're jumping on
prelims.
Yeah.
I love prelims, and I've been practicing since a good minute. And so, in the past, they used to be much more prevalent. They were so much fun because you'd bend I don't say bend the rules, but you'd push the limits a little bit. And so I would say, is there any video statements? Is there any audio statements? Is there any other recordings? Did you do a celebrate report? And I make them limit the discovery in their testimony so that in the future I can then cross-examine them and be like, well, you said in the prelim you didn't have X. You said in the prelim you didn't have Y. And then it's, again, very useful. Now, the judge will admonish me and say, this is not an appropriate question, but you best believe I always ask them, always. And I get some answers.
I'm sure you do. Before we go, one other thing I wanted to ask you about was, again, is this a defense under Georgia law, postpartum depression? I'm just asserting this right here. If there was a time period between birth and when she decided to do this with the trash bags, I'm not a doctor, but does postpartum depression kick in immediately? Have you seen cases where it's asserted? Is it a successful defense in some way? Just something we could be thinking of.
It's a good question. And I think I would structure it a little bit more broadly. And then that's why I keep saying the mitigating. What was her mental health prior to that situation? Was she on any medications? Did she go off the medications when she got pregnant? Again, that goes to knowledge, but at least if you go off mental health medications, it causes some problems and can make your brain chemistry gets kind of messed up. And then couple that with hormones, it's just a recipe for situations like this, disaster. So I would couch it just a little bit differently and just mention pregnancy, having the baby and those kinds of things and not limit it to the postpartum part. I'd put the whole storyline in, and you better believe I use it. And you need to, because it's real. It's all real.
This is a disturbing case. It's a really tough one to talk about. As of now, at the time of this recording, this infant remains hospitalized in critical but stable condition. Again, we are wishing nothing but a successful and healthy recovery for this baby. This baby deserves a chance at life after what a way to enter the world. Authorities have not yet released details about his long-term care, whether he's going to be placed with family or enter the foster system. But meanwhile, Mr. Poon awaits her next court appearance as investigators continue piecing together the timeline of events. And I will just say, we've talked about the Georgia Safe Haven law, but also for those of you in need of resources, the National Safe Haven Alliance operates a 24-hour hotline at 1-888-510-2229. If you need help, if you need information, definitely encourage you to call that number.
At the center of a
Yes, we got one of them cartoon looking ass teachers. I bet he taught black history or some shit like that. African American studies. Weird looking ass nigga. A nigga named Jamal looking ass nigga. Facebook, Jai Harry. Jai short for Jamal.
Louisiana educator is now at the center of a shocking scandal, facing more than 300 criminal charges. He's accused of allegedly soliciting and even paying his own students for explicit photos, including close-ups of their feet. He was arrested, and now he's learning a lesson in law. I'll walk you through the details. For Law and Crime News, I'm Kennedy Walker. Before we get into this case, I want to tell you about something exciting at Law and Crime. We are launching a new channel called Scandal that is dedicated to exposing the dark side of fame, covering all the wild to date on. All right, he went from being a speech therapist at a Mandeville area high school to being locked up behind bars. According to the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office, they began investigating Harry in October of 2024 when deputies received a tip alleging Harry had been paying students for pictures of their feet. NOLA.com reports a student alerted an administrator at the school and authorities were brought in. Harry was placed on leave and detectives launched an investigation. What they uncovered, we must warn you, is disturbing. They combed through hundreds of documents from social media accounts, obtained phone records, conducted interviews, reportedly revealing that not only was Harry allegedly paying students for feet pictures, but he had also obtained other sexually explicit videos and pictures of students, leading to more than 300 criminal charges against him. Warrants were issued for Harry's arrest, and he was located in a neighboring parish. He was taken into custody and booked as a fugitive. The charges include 1 count of indecent behavior with juveniles, 142 counts of pornography involving juveniles, 60 counts of computer-aided solicitation of a minor, and 102 counts of prohibited sexual conduct between an educator and a student. At this time, it's unknown how long these alleged crimes have been taking place. Other details, such as how much he was allegedly paying students, how many students participated,
He
and if there
been
were
to have
any
more
other teachers
charges than
involved
that
is
white
also
man.
not known. Authorities say some of the students have been identified, and detectives are still working to identify others. And joining me today is legal expert Joe Tamburino. Joe, thank you so much for being here today. Let's just jump right in. With more than 300 charges against the suspect, what does this case say about the severity of the crimes?
Hi, Kennedy. Thank you for having me on. Well, it says that they're pretty severe, and it's very unusual to have all these types of charges. You see, most of the time, even when the police or a prosecutor has hundreds or thousands of images that have, depictions of child pornography or child abuse, you don't charge every single one of them. But in this case, it seems that the prosecutor decided to do a charge for every image. Is it legal? Yes, it's legal, but it's unusual.
How do prosecutors typically approach a case with this many charges? I know you said it's a little unusual. Will they try to, for him to be getting charged, 300 charges, but will they try to convict on all counts or focus on a few key ones?
Well, they better try to convict on all counts because they issued all of the counts. I mean, if you're a prosecutor, and I was one over 30 years ago, you don't issue a charge unless you want to prove the person guilty. I mean, I think it would be bad practice to charge someone even say with, 100 different counts, and you say as a prosecutor, well, I'm only going to try to convict him of 10. No, a professional prosecutor, if you charge 300 counts, you better be ready to prove 300 counts. I would imagine the reason why that they did that is to try to aggravate this person's sentence. You see, the more convictions you have, logically and legally, the greater sentence you're going to get.
Thanks to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring today's Law and Crime YouTube Takeover. Morgan & Morgan is a firm with over 1,000 attorneys because they win a lot. In Florida, and 1.8 million. Even if you the link below or scan the QR code on your screen. Case is different, but do you ever hear of a person getting charged for every single one of the hundreds that they were accused of?
No, I've been doing this for 36 years. And, it really wasn't until I would say around 2000, 2001 that we started seeing this proliferation of, child pornography or images through computer images, that is, of child abuse and, sexual activities with children. And, I've rarely seen it where there's more than just a couple dozen of counts. So this is an outlier in cases.
Now, the charges include prohibited sexual conduct between an educator and a student. Can you break that down? Like, what does that legally entail?
Yes. Well, you see, in every state, there are laws about that governs things along the lines of people who are prohibited from having any type of sexual relations with another person. The best example is something like, say, a doctor or a therapist with a patient. That's illegal in most states. And of course, an educator, whether that be in high school, middle school, grammar school, and one of the students. So these are very typical laws. I believe every state has them. And it just says that, look, when you're in a certain position, you as the adult or the defendant in a case, you can have relations with certain people, such as your patient, or, if you are, say, a minister, your parishioner. And of course, if you're a teacher, your student.
Now, some of these charges involve computer-aided solicitation of a minor. How does the use of technology impact sentencing in cases like this one?
Greatly impacts them. We see this all the time in federal court, where you will get an enhanced sentence, meaning a greater sentence, more time in prison, say, because you used computer systems, because you use, say, certain technologies, whether it's, by way of texting or doing, using images through chat groups, shared files, things along those lines. So in most states and in the federal system, you will have a greater penalty if such systems are used.
Is there a reason behind that?
Yes, because when you deal with the internet and computer systems, you're dealing with something that boom, at the blink of an eye can transmit information and large amounts of information, and it will spread everywhere. So what does it do? Well, what it does is it re-victimizes the victim every time somebody sees that image. So for instance, if you have, say, one person, Jane Doe, who's a juvenile, and there's a sexually explicit picture of her, and it goes on some file sharing, well, instead of just one person seeing that one time, you might have thousands of people seeing that over 10 years. So because it re-victimizes the victim as it's spread through the internet, the person, meaning the defendant, will get a greater penalty.
What legal challenges could arise in proving these charges beyond a reasonable doubt?
Well, the first thing that the prosecutor has to do is establish what's called foundation, to show that, in fact, these images were found on the defendant's devices and were obtained by the defendant. And how do you do that? Well, it's easier than what you think. We all have and we all know about what's called IP addresses, Internet Protocol. So when we have a device, say we have our smartphone, and we're walking through a say a Starbucks coffee shop in New York, well, you're going to use the IP address at that time. And if you download something that's illegal, well, certainly they're going to be able to see that this IP address was affiliated with that coffee shop and specifically your cell phone, and it was downloaded at that time. Now, of course, you could always have the defense, well, I didn't have my cell phone at that time. Somebody else had it. Of course, you could have that defense. But that's a defense. It doesn't mean you can't face those charges. So that's what investigations and prosecutors do. They connect the dots. They show that the image, through different types of addresses on the computer, was downloaded, manipulated. Something was done with it by the defendant.
Now, we just talked about the amount of charges, right? Could the number of charges result in a plea deal, or does the severity of the case make that unlikely?
I would imagine this case will be pled out. I mean, there's just too much at stake for the defendant. I would think that the only way a case like this would go to trial is if the prosecutor simply says, there is no plea bargain. So if you want to plead guilty, you'll have to plead to everything. And that's unlikely because in our system, no matter what state you're in or the federal government, most of the time judges want to see cases resolved. And it's the right thing to do because if every case went into trial, well, our system would grind to a halt. You want to encourage that. So I would think in a case like this, yes, it's going to have some type of resolution before trial.
Now, law enforcement reportedly went through hundreds of records. I know we touched a little bit on IP addresses and things like that, but what kind of digital forensic work goes into prosecuting online crimes? Because it's a lot. It is a lot, and investigator. But it's basically comes down to this. The investigator or law enforcement will get some type of tip. It could be from the, exploited and missing children's group out of Washington, D.C. It could be from some local person who says, gee, I saw this image on, Bill's computer or his smartphone, something like that. And then they go from there. And usually the next step is some type of a search warrant because, a police officer, investigator simply can't say, hey, Verizon, T-Mobile, whatever it is, we want to search John Doe's phone. You can't do that. So you go to a judge and you get a search warrant saying, look, here's what we need to look at, judge. And if the judge signs it, well, then you're off to the races. You could get in there. You could see what this person, if the person has been sharing the images. Because it's not only a crime simply to have such an image, it's also, in most situations, a crime to disseminate, meaning to spread those images around. And I guess, listening to all of this, it makes it hard for a person to say, oh, well, it's not mine, or, oh, I didn't put it there. How does law enforcement verify, though? Can you break that down, verify the authenticity of digital evidence in these types of cases? Yes, there's basically two things that law enforcement will try to, dispense with. One is if the suspect's computer system, cell phone, whatever it is, was hacked, meaning that some nefarious group or
we appreciate $1, but we would rather have 10. We appreciate $20, but we would rather have 50. We appreciate $50, but we would rather have 100. We appreciate $100, but we would rather have 200. Thank you, Sister Avanti, $10 coming on the Cash App. Thank you, sister. Next time, make it 20, but thank you for that 10. I know you barely had that. Thank you, sister.
And set up credit accounts, something along those lines. So law enforcement will try to determine if the suspect's computer system was hacked and say it wasn't. Okay, well, they've checked off that box. The next thing they'll try to do is show proximity or possession of the device. So what does that mean? That means that they're going to try to gather evidence that, in fact, the suspect was with his cell phone when the items were downloaded. So say, for instance, the suspect, was, I don't know, maybe going through a surgical procedure, and his cell phone was at home. That's going to be great evidence for the defense that, in fact, he wasn't the one who downloaded it. So the investigators will try to dispense with those two things, to see if it was hacked and to see if whether or not the suspect was near or had possession of his phone at the time the crime was committed.
Now, in cases involving explicit images, how do prosecutors ensure that minors are not further exploited during legal proceedings?
Well, it's something that's very important to do, which means that if there really is going to be a trial and you have these images that will be displayed to the jury, and you will have to display them as a prosecutor, you want to make sure that courtroom is locked tight, which means that whoever is seeing those images cannot disseminate them, cannot reproduce them. They're not available to the public. I mean, say you're in a state, and most states allow this, where cameras are in the courtroom. Obviously not New York and not in the federal system, but in most states, cameras are allowed. Well, of course, those images are going to be blacked out for the public to see. And, you know, when you deal with cases like child pornography, even in terms of the prosecution and the defense going over evidence, it is highly regulated. A prosecutor can't simply say, hey, defense attorney, here are the images of child pornography we want to produce at the trial. It just doesn't work that way. These are tightly controlled systems, as they should be, because what you're dealing with is children who are victimized in those images. And again, you don't want to have those kids re-victimized every time looking at the image.
What legal strategies might his defense team use to counter the prosecution's case?
Basically, he's only got two defenses. One is somebody hacked my system. But, you know, if there's no evidence of that, it's going to be hard to pull off. Second is that he didn't possess the items when they were downloaded, meaning that somebody else must have downloaded them or they got on his phone somehow. Again, like the example, if he was, you know, having some type of medical procedure, or he was, you know, perhaps maybe a suspect is in the physical labor industries. He's working outside. He's busy 10 hours a day, and his cell phone is in the pickup truck, or it's in some other location. You know, he just doesn't use the phone while he's working. So that's how you would try to do it. I would suspect, though, in this case, you know, the defense is probably going to try to work something out with the prosecutor before trial.
Well, given the volume of the charges, what kind of sentence could Harry be facing if convicted?
Well, I'm not licensed in Louisiana, but I would imagine it's decades. You know, in most states, including and also in the federal system, child pornography is a serious offense. In the federal system, it's not an issue as to whether you're going to prison. It's a matter of how long. In some states, like here in Minnesota, on your first offense, normally there's not a prison sentence. They will allow you to do some type of probation. But again, every case is different, and the more images you have, the greater penalty you're going to face.
Now, if new victims come forward, how would that impact the case? Would that mean potentially a plea deal could be tossed out, or it'll just be more charges piled on?
Usually, when you're in these types of cases, your plea deal will include this, that right now you're going to get X, Y, and Z sentence, regardless of any new information that comes out. Because it really wouldn't make sense for a defendant to say, sure, I'll accept 10 years, and then a month later, after they're going through more information, they find more images. You basically would try to get an agreement that says, on this whole matter, here's what we're going to agree to, regardless of what pans out from now till sentencing.
Could the suspect face federal charges, or is this strictly a state-level case?
Anytime you're dealing with child pornography through the internet or any type of computer devices, you're in federal jurisdiction as well as state. So the feds could step in. Now, normally they don't. 95% of all criminal charges and cases are state cases. The feds only get involved in a select few. But, you know, I mean, it's up to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Louisiana as to whether or not they would take this case. But normally the states prosecute these types of cases.
And just explain for those that don't know, like, is it possible for the state to charge him and for him to get federal charges, or it'll just be either or?
It is possible for both jurisdictions to charge, and here's why. We operate in a system called a dual sovereignty, which means a dual government. There are state laws, and below them, you know, there are county and municipal laws, but there are state laws, that's one jurisdiction, and then there are federal laws, that's a separate jurisdiction. So you could be convicted in state court for child pornography, and then the federal government come along and charge you also for the same type of child pornography, and you get a federal conviction. That's legal, but it just doesn't happen too often. Normally, just one jurisdiction does it. So, for example, because the federal government has more onerous, more strict types of sentencing, and they're more powerful, and federal law usurps state law, normally if the feds step in on a state case, the state will simply dismiss their case or step aside and let the federal government prosecute first.
If convicted, what kind of parole restrictions could he face upon release?
Most of the time in most states, a person would be under supervision for the rest of their life when they have so many charges dealing with this kind of nature of crime. So, that means that they would have to register as an offender for life. They could be on different types of monitoring. In many states, they use GPS, global positioning systems, some type of ankle bracelet to know where a person is. In other states, there are things like you have to check in with parole. You have geographic restrictions, meaning that you can't go next to, say, elementary schools or things like that. And many times there are restrictions on your own contact with other people, such as you're not allowed to contact juveniles unless there's an adult supervisor there with them.
Is there a chance of civil lawsuits because of this from victims and their families against the suspect or even the school?
Definitely against the suspect, because anytime you have someone who's alleged to have committed a crime and say they're convicted, sure, you could have a civil case against them. Against the school, it would depend. And that would depend on whether or not, like in a general way, the school knew about it, they didn't do anything about it. Their rules on engaging, a teacher engaging in certain conduct with a student, their rules are lax, their supervision. A lot of these types of internet crimes also should be looked at under what's called the Communication Decency Act, Section 203, which specifically gives immunity to internet providers. You see, if all of a sudden a newspaper would allow some reader to publish this type of criminality, you could sue the newspaper. But under federal law, Section 203, with the Communications Decency Act of 1996, that amendment was done then, internet providers are immune. So, really, Congress should step in and change the law, because if you have a provider that's not monitoring who's going on their systems, who's, putting images out there, really, Congress does have the authority to put some of the responsibility on the internet provider to police these sites.
Yeah, you definitely bring up a good point there. And this is a case that we will be following along very closely. Thank you so much, Joe, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Jarvis Harry's bond is set at $150,000. And this isn't the first time we've reported on teachers getting arrested. Earlier this year, we reported on an elementary school
I believe obsessed teacher hit with new student sex charges.
We have a warrant for your arrest, so we're gonna take you in.
Detectives took special ed teacher Allison Haveman-Niedrick in last summer after they said she had sex with an 8th grader. Now she's facing more charges. I have the details and why prosecutors say Haveman-Niedrick was obsessed with this boy. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Allison Haveman-Niedrick is facing very serious charges in New Jersey. A grand jury in Monmouth County indicted Haveman-Niedrick on 7 counts, including aggravated sexual assault in the 2nd degree, 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a child, and she's accused of endangering a child by manufacturing and possessing child pornography. Previously, prosecutors had said the detectives found videos of Haveman-Niedrick and the 8th grade boy having sex. She's accused of recording those encounters. Haveman-Niedrick was a teacher at Freehold Intermediate School last year, and in June, she was arrested after the school went to police. Here's body camera footage of detectives taking her in as her parents and husband watched.
Good evening. Yes. Detective Hernandez, Freehold Borough Police Department. Is Allison home? Yes. May I speak with her, please? Now we'll talk to her out here. Thank you. Hi. Hey, Michelle. How you doing? Hi. Detective Hernandez, Freehold Borough Police Department. Detective Correa, Detective Hobbs. You know why we're here? No? Any idea? You want to move away from the house and speak to her? I don't feel comfortable talking about my attorney present. Okay, no problem. Thank you. We have a warrant for your arrest, so we're gonna take you in. Is there anything on you that you want to leave with your family?
No, my glasses come with me. Do I have medication that I need to bring with me?
If you take medication, I will highly suggest for you to have someone get it for you. Okay, just give me a second. Phone numbers,
I don't have a phone. It got destroyed, actually. I lost it today and got run over.
Okay, so Allison Haveman-Niedrick said she didn't have a phone, that it got run over that very same day that Freehold Borough Police came to arrest her. Prosecutors would later say she had texted the 8th grade boy thousands and thousands of times, and that some of those messages included sexual videos and photos. The Asbury Park Press reported that the prosecutor on the case told a judge that Haveman Niedrich was obsessed with the boy. Let's listen to her talk about the phone one more time.
I don't have a phone. It got destroyed, actually. I lost it today and got run over.
Okay. Just have them bring the medicine.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to put you under cuffs, so.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah. Joints are very fragile.
I'm not going to hurt you in any shape or form. This is going to go on gently. Right? Mm-hmm. Still good?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay? Okay. Give me a second.
My husband's here with my kids.
Okay. Thank you. And I see your parents there.
Yeah, my parents are here. They're fine. My kids are safe.
All right. Do me a favor. Go like this.
I do have a lot of medical issues. I'm sorry.
Okay. No problem.
Now, at a hearing last July, Jersey Shore Online reported that a prosecutor said other teachers saw Haveman Niedrich rubbing the victim's neck and back and flirting with him and noticed her touching his leg. A vice principal reported concerns to police at the beginning of June of 2024. Police then contacted the boy's mother, who was also concerned because her daughter had seen her brother sitting in Haveman Niedrich's car, and he was on the phone late at night. The victim had also told a friend that he was dating a teacher. The boy denied anything was going on with Haveman Niedrich and claimed he was dating her daughter, according to the Asbury Park Press. This case involving teacher Allison Haveman Niedrich is Exhibit A of why it's so important to know who's around you and your family, and to research the people in your life. You can use truthfinder.com. Truthfinder is one of the largest public record search services out there. And traffic record, www.truth21. A criminal that he turned to charges. Now that total is up to 7. And it includes official misconduct because she was a teacher and in a position of power over the student. When Haveman Niedrich was arrested, she didn't seem surprised. Here's more of the video from her arrest, where she told police she needed medication.
My husband can get it.
Yeah. Can you let her know?
Can you get my antibiotics and my on the counter?
Keep them in the same container.
They're the same pills, though.
Oh, same
You
pills,
said, like,
okay.
one was just one empty, so I just want to, like,
Gotcha.
same thing.
Perfect.
Sorry, my mom had strokes recently.
Okay, no problem.
I'm my parents' caretaker.
Okay.
Where is she going now?
She's going to come back to the trailer for our police.
She's going to her police station in
She
Freehold.
look old in
Yes.
the bitch on this body cam, but
Do you-
they
do you
keep
know their
showing they
numbers?
picture her with red hair, making her
Okay.
look younger.
And they have
than
my attorney's
motherfucker.
phone.
Okay,
Should I
yeah.
keep that with me as well, or?
If you don't know it by heart,
I don't know my attorney's phone.
yeah, I would highly recommend for you to get it, because that way you
I
have
have a
that piece of paper.
Look at it.
Yeah.
Where's it at? Where's the paper?
It's, if you want my husband to get it, he knows where it is.
Yeah, just tell him what to get. Go ahead, sir. No, you can come out, sir.
Now, after the issue of the medication is sorted out, Haveman Niedrich asks her husband again to get her attorney's phone number as her mother stands by.
Yeah.
Allison, where is the red paper?
Look at the cabinet by where you just got the meds. There's 2 white pieces of paper with red crayon writing. Look straight ahead. Taped.
Al,
Nope.
get my oxygen, please.
It's not that. I know.
You okay?
No.
Are you okay?
She's on full-time oxygen.
Well, I was in bed. I'm on oxygen all night long.
Okay. Okay. Are you little? Do you need medical attention?
No.
You sure? Okay. Is this it?
Yes, that's right. That's my pastor and my
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to take? Okay. And you know the numbers if you need to call them?
My husband, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So we're going to get going, okay? Like I said, we're going to process her. We don't make the decision because of bail reform. We only text the Hernandez batch 101, and you guys can,
She's going to Freehold. Wait a minute. What?
I didn't need to write down his number. I know.
Thank you. So
Eric,
she's.
she'll call you later, okay, Eric?
Yeah. We'll let her make a call or two before, once we know what's happening.
Okay.
Okay?
She's going to get to call the attorney.
She's going to have every right to do what she needs to do. We
Well,
don't.
can you answer that question?
Sure. I mean, that's what I'm saying. She's going to have every right to, like, call. We'll allow people to make calls. If she chooses to call her attorney, by all means. She chooses to call you guys, by all means. It's a very nice and civil process that we're doing with her.
But it would be with your phone. She doesn't have her own phone.
There's a phone that we provide at the headquarters for people to make calls. We don't, she's going to have every ability to make calls, and that's as needed. If they decide to put her in the county, then we have to, that will be something that we have to process.
The detectives drive Haveman Niedrich to the police station where she is processed.
All right. Just step out, please. It's a little tight because the door won't go any further, but just come this way. Thank you. And that way. Straight forward. And to that right and that door.
All right. So to talk about this case, I want to bring in Dan Shore. He is a former sex crimes prosecutor, and he's actually written a book about institutions dealing with sex crimes involving this exact type of thing. It's called Open Bar. It'll be coming out in August. So Dan, thanks for coming back on Crime Fix to discuss this case, another one with really, really disturbing allegations. Your thoughts right off the bat about this case?
Well, whenever a teacher is with an underage student in some type of sexual relationship, that's very concerning. Here, it's a special education student who may be even more vulnerable for being preyed upon by a teacher. And it's alarming that it seems, if the evidence is accurate that the prosecution is putting forward, this seems to have been going on for a while. There's a lot of electronic communication regarding what was happening. So it's very concerning that this wasn't noticed earlier and that it was allowed to continue for so long.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like from what the prosecution is saying, what they've claimed in court, this started back in January of 2024. And it sounds like staff possibly saw her rubbing him, doing some things that were questionable, and then nothing really happened until around June. And that is really weird because that's a long time. And apparently they were meeting up at her house, in hotels, that type of thing. So a period of time had elapsed before the school contacted law enforcement. And you mentioned that there were electronic communications, apparently thousands and thousands and thousands of text messages, videos. So yikes. Is the gut reaction of some of these institutions to kind of like not want to believe it?
It depends. I work with a lot of schools. Besides being a writer, I investigate sexual misconduct at schools across the country. That's what I do full time. I was a sex crimes prosecutor originally. And some schools I've seen, unfortunately, look the other way when they see concerning signs. Some people report it and it doesn't go to the right place and there's miscommunication. And I write about that in my book, where there's a lot of times where there's maybe an employee who did see something and they either didn't say something about it or they went to someone and nothing was done. But there's always two parts of an investigation when a school is looking at this, because they have a responsibility to investigate it in addition to law enforcement's investigation. One is, what was this teacher doing? And the second part of it is, what institutional failings were there that allowed this to continue? Were the policies and procedures not clear to people to know to report this? But it's amazing how, if the allegations are true, it's amazing how brazen this was, where other people allegedly saw touching in public in school, and there were supposedly 25,000 text messages. So if that's true, this is going on for a long time. So unfortunately, it seems like nothing was done until this went on for a while. And even if this defendant is prosecuted, even if she's sent to prison, that doesn't undo the harm to this child who was a special education student. And if it's true that he was sexually abused for a significant period of time, that's going to require a lot of support in order to rebuild his life.
Right. And his mom apparently, once all of this became discovered, they took him to the hospital. They thought he was having like a mental health crisis, which is just, I'm sure possibly he was. She has pleaded not guilty to these charges. But when she was initially picked up in June of 2024, which it's on body camera footage, she didn't seem surprised. She was very calm. She said, I have a lawyer. I don't feel comfortable talking without my lawyer, which is totally within her right, obviously. But she almost seemed resigned to this fact and knew that it was coming. I mean, her parents and her husband are there while she's being taken in. It's pretty late at night. But, they say she was obsessed. The prosecutor said in court last July, she was obsessed with this boy. How does a woman, a mom with kids, become obsessed with an 8th grade boy? And then they're just meeting up in hotels and wherever else. I mean, I have a really hard time, and we've covered so many of these, wrapping my head around that, where you're basically allegedly meeting up with somebody who could be your child and having a sexual relationship with them.
Right. We don't know the particular details of this person's life, but I can tell you what I've seen in other similar cases. And sometimes it's about not just the sex part of it, it's the power and control part of it, that maybe the teacher in other parts of their lives feels not in control. And this is a situation where they can be in control and can be looked up to by someone who's younger and take control of a situation. I've seen situations where the perpetrator of incidents like this has been sexually abused in their past. Obviously, I don't know if that's true here, but I've seen that in other cases where someone was very young and cycle that continues. And also, we don't know what was happening in this defendant's life at the time, in their marriage, in their friendship, and in just their own mental health. So there's a lot of unanswered questions that we may never get answers to. But in cases I've investigated and prosecuted, those are the types of issues I've seen that help explain why someone might do this. Although none of that, of course, justifies these allegations if they're true.
She said when she was picked up, there was something that really stood out to me. The one thing that she said was they asked for her phone. Obviously, they had the teenage boy's phone. He had handed it over to law enforcement. And this is where they say they discovered text messages between the two of them that include these sexual videos, inappropriate sexual photographs. And she says, she said, I don't have my phone. It was run over today. I mean, just happens the day she's getting picked up by the cops at her house before midnight. Her phone gets run over, apparently. This is her claim. I don't know if that's really true or not, but it seems like rather convenient and something that will definitely be used against her by the police.
Yeah, I mean, it's very well, might have been run over intentionally, right? Like, I don't think the police are probably going to ask for corroboration that it was run over. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone who says the phone was run over, that it was run over, but they might have arranged that intentionally in order to hide evidence. I see a lot of cases I investigate where someone says, my phone fell in the swimming pool last week and it doesn't work anymore, things like that. It's important for law enforcement to try to get the phone anyway, even if something is run over or falls in water and it seems inoperable. There are amazing technicians who have expertise in these phones who can recover data that you think is destroyed. So if law enforcement does get a hold of the device, even if it's in really bad shape, I've seen amazing work by these experts in recovering things. But as you said, they do have what the student provided in terms of text messages. Law enforcement saying it's 25,000 messages. That includes photos and videos. And if that's true, and there's no reason to doubt that, it's hard for this teacher to explain that away, because if you're saying, well, I never had an inappropriate relationship, why would you have those many messages, especially with the sexual content over time?
Right. I think it's going to be difficult to refute that. And especially these days, even if the phone's destroyed, if you have, a cloud or whatever your phone is, Android, Apple, if you're backed up to a Google account or a cloud or whatever, they can get that stuff, whether the phone is destroyed or not. So, it's amazing what they can do these days. Let's talk about the videos and the text messages on the phone, Dan, because the prosecutors have really upped the ante here. As I mentioned earlier, when she was first arrested in June, she was facing 2 counts of sexual assault. I believe one of them was aggravated sexual assault. She's still facing those charges after indictment, but now they've added these other charges of child endangering, including manufacturing and possessing child pornography. They're saying she videotaped, recorded these sex encounters with this child. So I'm like, oh my God. So you start getting into the realm of manufacturing child pornography and distributing it and sending it. You're really, really getting into some territory where you are going to face some serious, serious, serious time.
Right. And you mentioned earlier how she pled not guilty. That is very common. That's usually what happens at this stage, because when you are facing such significant charges that you just outlined, you want time to assess what evidence there is against you, talk to a lawyer, try to negotiate a plea bargain. Because if the evidence that the prosecution says they have is true, and again, there's no reason to doubt it, then there's probably going to be a conviction here. It's just a matter of what would the conviction or what kind of sentencing would there be? And most of these cases, and in some kind of plea agreement, because there's no benefit to a defendant if there's overwhelming evidence, to go to trial, because usually then judges give a harsher sentence. So that may take a certain amount of time to get to a trial. Sometimes the prosecution will give a little more lenient sentence in return for a plea bargain, also to spare the victim having to come into court and to recount everything that happened in public, which can also be re-traumatizing. So those are some of the considerations that we'll see play out.
Yeah, most definitely. And she did plead not guilty. I mean, that's basically what everybody does. Nobody's going to go into court after an indictment unless they've been working something behind the scenes and plead guilty. That's not how these things work. And I did reach out to her lawyer for a comment, and he has not yet responded, at least at the time of this recording. There's some really serious things going on here. They're also seeking, Dan, a sentencing enhancement because she was in a position of power over this student. So, you also add in that factor when you're working in an official capacity as a teacher, that always kind of makes the possible penalty even worse.
Definitely, that would be an abuse of power, and someone who's in a teacher position has control over a student. We tell our kids, listen to your teachers, right? If your teacher tells you to do something, generally we want them to do it. So if you have a student, in this case, a special education student who was guided by a teacher to engage in sexual acts, and they're told for years, listen to your teachers, the teacher is taking advantage of that in continuing this relationship. So that's really important. And I'll say that most sex abuse cases that I've prosecuted and investigated deal with someone who is in a position of trust, a teacher, a coach, a family member, a friend. There are strangers who commit sex crimes, of course, but more often than not, I see it is someone who's in a position of trust and takes advantage of the trust to abuse that trust and really hurt someone. And that's what we're seeing with the allegations here.
Well, it will be interesting to see how this case is eventually resolved. It could be heading toward a plea bargain. We don't know. But how much time she'll get if she does indeed plead guilty, it'll be interesting to see what that amount of time will be if it does end up going that direction. So Dan Shore, thank you so much. Again, Open Bar coming out in August. Appreciate your time.
It's always great talking with you. Thanks for having me on.
And let's take a look one more time at Allison Haveman-Niedrich talking about herself. Phone.
I don't have a phone. It got destroyed, actually. I lost it today and got run over.
All right, we're done with that. That's all I got tonight on that one. Like I said, I gotta see what this little toddler of mine is doing. I may come back and do this tummy video of them people over there. I hadn't heard it, but I saw that I got an email for them. So I may check it out. We'll see. If so, give me about 30 minutes and I'll probably pop back up. If I ain't pop back up and y'all don't see nothing scheduled in the next 30 minutes, then it ain't happening. Until the next episode, we out. Never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Nigga talking reckless, shoot his bitch ass with the quickness. Now he bleeding, sorry, begging, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 Limp Bizkit. All my niggas wildin', they done labeled us a misfit. Wake up every morning, 2 or 3, 5 in the tidbit. Oh shit, did nobody come to see you old? It's some focus, shoot 100 shots, no reloaded. Master of the game, you would think I'm into coded. Memphis niggas spit this pippin', mackin' like I'm golden. Ho, with my money, you gon' turn me to the old me. Say hi, first class flight, I'm in the nosebleed. Copy, cooking, whipping, shipping, till you count the proceeds. OG, I've been moving back niggas since 03. Low key, niggas hating, but they don't want no beef. State gang, true sippers, bitch, I bet we gon' eat. Get jammed, get a lawyer, make it bunny, don't speak. Pour up, I need some more. A nigga had a long week. Shout out to my plug, he showed me love, he out in Long Beach. I'm true geek, walking by myself but left with 2 freaks. Ooh wee, nothing in they mouth and on they booty. Austin Power swag, yeah baby, this is groovy. You can call me Money Boy or you can call me Nudie. Hood niggas, churches, chicken, let me get a 2-piece. Top down, 2-seater, let me feel the 2 breathe. Gotta hold it steady, chopper, kick it back like Bruce Lee. Lately I've been in the zone, I guess I'm in my 2-3. Don't call my phone for nothing less than a QP. Feeling like the Migos, cause my bitch is bad and bougie. All my haters love me, all these bitches just some groupies. Came a long way, I like to introduce the new me. Standing on business like I'm king or like I'm Drewski. Call me Ron Island, cause I like my love for choosy. When we link it's a movie, she bustin' like a Uzi. I love the way she do me, I beat it up like Uzi. She dancing just like Suki. Call me Ron Island, cause I look my love for choosy. When we link it's a movie, she bustin' like a Uzi. I love the way she do me, I beat it up like Uzi. She dancing just like Suki. I never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Niggas talking reckless, shoot his bitch ass with the quickness. Name pleading, sorry, baby, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 Limp Bizkit. Never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Nigga talking reckless, shoot his bitch ass with the quickness. Name pleading, sorry, baby, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 Limp Bizkit.